Hello, and welcome back to the story. Today we will be making a recap on a 2011 movie titled Horrible Bosses. The story begins with a man named Nick who rushes to work, which is in a successful financial firm. He narrates how tired he is with his job and that he has no life. He works from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day just so he can receive a promotion. As he reaches the elevator, he finds out that it is already 2 minutes past 6. He reaches his desk, and his boss calls him. His boss, Harkins, reprimands him for being 2 minutes late. Harkins later gets a glass of scotch and forces Nick to drink it. Nick coughs and splutters but drinks it anyway just for the promotion. Meanwhile, Dale is dropped off to work by his fiancée, Stacy. Dale narrates how he wanted to be a husband above all else. He works as a dental assistant to his boss, Dr. Julia. Dr. Julia keeps on flirting with him, and Dale hates it. Julia keeps on making advances and Dale tells her to stop because he is already engaged. On the other hand, Kurt loves his job. He works as an account manager at a chemical company owned by a very kind boss named Jack. However, Jack has a rude and spoiled son named Bobby. Bobby frequents the company bathroom to snort some powder. Bobby does not like Kurt and tells him that he is a bootlicker. When Jack rides his car, he tells Kurt that he will someday run the company. Jack drives off and suddenly has a heart attack and crashes. The three men later meets at a bar and shares their story with their bosses. Kurt reveals that after Jack has passed away, his rude son Bobby is now in charge. Nick shares how his boss is being extra evil now that he is about to get a promotion. And Dale shares how he is being sexually harassed by his boss. Nick tells him to find a different job. But Dale says no one would hire him because he is registered a sex offender after he accidentally take a piss at a kid's playground while drunk. The next day, Nick's boss sets up a meeting and announces that he has already chosen who will be the new senior vice president and Nick is confident that it is him. However, it turns out that Harkins is promoting no one and he appoints his own self as the vice president. Nick got so mad and pounds on Harkins and throws him off the building, but it is just all in his imagination. Nick confronts his boss because he has been hinting Nick on the promotion for months. Nick added his sacrifices just to get the promotion, like not being able to visit his grandmother before she passed away because his boss did not want him to leave the office. Harkins laughs at him. Nick tells him that he will quit, but Harkins tells him that he'd make sure nobody would hire him because he would write a letter of recommendation that says Nick is insubordinate and a dishonest drunk. He then tells Nick that he owns him and that he can crush him anytime he wants. Meanwhile, Kurt arrives in the office and Bobby tells him that he is 3 hours late. Kurt answers that he was at the funeral of Bobby's father, Jack. Bobby says that his excuse is unacceptable now that he is in charge. He brings Kurt to the office and asks him why the company is not making a lot, and Kurt answers him that it is recession, but the company is still profitable. Bobby tells him to cut back on waste management, but Kurt argues that cutting back its budget will endanger local residents. Bobby is mad and says he does not care. Bobby also tells Kurt to fire the fat people and a disabled man. Kurt tells him that he seems to not care about the company, and Bobby says it is true, and the company is just an ATM to him, that he is going to squeeze every profit out of it. He then tells Kurt that if he is not going to fire people, Bobby will fire them, and Kurt included. At the dental clinic, Dale goes to Julia's office where his boss is just wearing only her robe and an underwear. Julia locks the door and tells him to sit down. Julia tells Dale that she respects the institution of marriage. That's why Dale has to sleep with her now while he is still engaged. Dale still declines and Julia squeezes his crotch and tells him to get out. The men go to the bar again and are sad about what happened with their horrible bosses. Dale tells the two that they can find another job because they were not registered as offenders like him, and Kurt agrees. But then, their supposed to be successful high school classmate Kenny arrives. Kenny went to Yale and was hired by the Lehman Brothers. Their company was shut down and Kenny has been looking for work for the last 2 years but was not able to get one, even as a waiter. The only way he earns money is by doing hand pleasures to other men in the bathroom. The three realize that finding new job during the recession is almost impossible, so they decide to keep their jobs so they would not end up like Kenny. Kurt and Nick joke about eliminating their bosses and Dale does not approve and leaves. The two then emphasize that it was just a joke. The next day, Dale's fiancée Stacy visits him at work. She said that Dale's boss Julia invited her and offered her free dental work. Julia hugs Stacy and Dale tries to decline Julia's offer to Stacy but fails. When Stacy passes out in the dentist's chair, Julia jumps to Dale and tells him they should hump on top of Stacy. Dale gets mad and tells Julia he quits. Julia blackmails Dale that she will tell Stacy they had sex. Julia also has pictures of Dale and herself seems to be humping while Dale was unconscious. Julia leaves and Dale is speechless. That night, Dale rushes to Kurt's apartment to tell the two that he is in and that he wants to eliminate his boss. Nick does not want to and says it was just a joke, but Kurt and Dale try to goad him. They suggest hiring a professional hitman, but no one knows where to find one and Dale says he will figure it out. The next evening, the three meet at a travel inn. Dale says he found a hitman online. He believes that wet work professional is the code for a professional hitman. The wet work professional, who looks like James Bond, later arrives and they get excited. The wet worker comes in and prepares a big plastic on the floor. The three are confused and the wet work professional then tells them that his work is that he urinates on other men for money. The two got mad at Dale and the wet worker tells them that he still wants his $200 so they pay him, and they leave. While driving, Kurt uses his car's Nav Guide to find the most dangerous bar in the city, in hopes of finding a hitman. At the bar, Kurt asks the bartender if there are any people in the bar who kills for money. Kurt sounded racist that the bartender gets mad and scares them off. A man from the bar named Dean Jones follows them and says he can help them. They then tell Jones that they each have horrible bosses that they want to eliminate. Jones says it would cost them $30,000 but the three say they don't have that money. Jones then lowers the fee to $5,000, to which they agree. Nick, Kurt and Dale take their savings and meet with Jones. They handed him the briefcase which contains the payment. Jones then tells them that he is on probation and should avoid committing crime, that is why he will just act as their murder consultant. They try to take back their money, but Jones threatens them and tells them there is no refund. He tells them that as their murder consultant, he will give advice on how they can eliminate their bosses. He adds that since they have motives, they will be blamed if they kill their own boss. So instead of taking down their own bosses, he advises them to kill each other's boss. The three agrees and Jones leaves with the $5,000. The next day, the three start their recon to gather information. They first go to Bobby's house and wait for Bobby to leave. Evening comes and Bobby finally leaves, so they quickly sneak in. Dale and Nick accidentally drops the box full of illegal powder. They manage to vacuum the powder but accidentally inhale it. Kurt on the other hand rubs Bobby's toothbrush, razors, and floss on his butt. They left the house and Kurt was able to steal Bobby's cell phone which has his contacts and schedules. They later head to Harkins' mansion. They tell Dale, who is still high from the powder, to wait outside as lookout. The two find a key and they sneak inside the house. They find out that Harkin has a hot wife which aroused Kurt. Meanwhile, Dale is distracted and plays on his phone that he did not notice Harkin. Harkin confronts him because Dale threw the plastic of his peanut butter sandwich outside and Dale does not know that he is talking to Harkin. Harkin accidentally inhales the plastic, and he cannot breathe because he is allergic to peanuts. Harkin points to his feet and Dale finds the EpiPen and reads the instructions. Dale then stabs the EpiPen to Harkin's chest multiple times. The two see him through the window and they thought Dale is stabbing Harkin to death, so they panicked and run. Kurt accidentally drops Bobby's phone as they leave Harkin's room. Harkin's wife arrives and she hugs and kisses Dale because he saved her husband's life. Harkin gets mad and tells Dale to leave. Harkin confronts his wife because he thinks she is cheating and sleeping around. Dale finds the two and they scold Dale and tell him that it was Harkin he was stabbing. Dale tells them that Harkin had an allergy to peanuts, so he rescued him, and Nick got mad because Dale saved his boss who they were planning to eliminate. They now devise a plan to put poison in Bobby's illegal powder and put peanuts somewhere on Harkins' house. As with Dale's boss Julia, the womanizer Kurt will take care of her. The next day, the three go to the grocery store to buy rat poison, binoculars and peanuts. It is now decided that Nick will eliminate Kurt's boss Bobby, Kurt will eliminate Dale's boss Julia, and Dale will eliminate Nick's boss Harkin. The three drive off in separate directions, and by the evening, they arrive at each boss's house. Kurt uses his binoculars to observe Julia and is so excited. Meanwhile, Harkin, who is paranoid that his wife is cheating, looks over her clothes and bag to find evidence. He later finds Bobby's phone in their bedroom, and he leaves. Dale sneaks inside Harkins' house and goes to his bathroom to put the peanut in his shampoo. But then he calls Nick saying he can't do it, and Nick says he is thinking the same thing. Nick later sees Harkin knocking at Bobby's house. When Bobby goes out, Harkin suddenly shoots him twice, and he leaves. Nick tells Dale what happened, and Dale panics as he leaves. Nick, on the other hand, drives so fast and the traffic camera takes a picture of him. The three later meet at the bar, and the two tell Kurt that they can no longer go on with their plan to eliminate each his boss. Kurt then admits that he slept with Julia because she seems to know he is watching outside and teases him. Julia opened the door and Kurt went inside. Kurt suggests that they make an anonymous tip to the police and tell them that Harkin killed Bobby so he will be put in jail. When the three are about to go to a payphone, a police car stops them. The police officer tells them that a traffic cam caught Nick's car fleeing the scene of a crime that night, and they bring the three to the police station. At the station, the inspector asks Nick why he was running so fast 1 block away from the victim's house just moments after he got shot. Nick says that he was drag racing, and the police are confused why he is drag racing in a Prius. The inspector then asks why, after fleeing the crime scene, he is hanging with Dale, who is a sex offender, and Kurt, who is an employee of the victim. Dale then questions the police officers if they are under arrest, and they answer no, so the three walks out. Before they could leave the station, the police officer tells them that the forensics team are sweeping Bobby's house for DNA and fingerprints. Kurt suddenly remembers that he rubbed Bobby's things on his butt, and Dale yells at him as they drive off. They decide to meet with Jones again, and they tell him what happened. Jones asks for $5,000 again, and they refuse, so Jones just asks them to pay for his drink, which they did. Jones tells them that they should make Harkin confess and secretly record it. The three later find out that Jones never murdered anyone. He was jailed for 10 years because of video piracy. They get mad because they think they were tricked, and they leave. The three go back to Harkins' house and find that it is quiet and seems empty. Kurt takes the tape recorder, and they sneak in. When they open the door, a crowd of people surprise them, thinking it is their birthday boy Harkin who came in. Harkin's wife tells them to come in, and she recognizes Dale, who rescued her husband the other night. While waiting for Harkin, Kurt flirts with his wife. Harkin later arrives and they surprise him. Harkin angrily jumps, saying he hates surprises, and leaves to his room. The three decide to go on with their plan, but Kurt is distracted with his wife and sneaks off with her. Nick and Dale confront Harkin and tell him that they saw him shoot Bobby down. Harkin verbally confesses in killing Bobby because he thinks he is his wife's lover. They get excited because they think they finally have evidence against Harkin, but then Nick realizes that Kurt, who has the recorder, is missing. Harkin is looking for his gun, and the two hurriedly walk out. They find Kurt, who just went out of the bathroom with Harkin's wife, and they slap him, and they leave. When they reach Kurt's apartment, they saw police officers getting inside, and they think the police found Kurt's DNA in Bobby's house, so they drive away. Julia calls Dale and tells him that she is tired of waiting for him and that she will tell his fiancé about them if Dale is still not going to nail her. Dale finally agrees and tells Julia that he will sleep with her. A big car suddenly slams behind them, and it is Harkin, so they speed up to loose him. When they successfully got loose of Harkin, Kurt's car Nav Guide suddenly speaks and tells them that it will call the police because it detects a collision on the car. They tell it not to call the authorities because the police think they murdered someone. The car slows down, then stop because the Nav Guide disabled the engine as protocol when a driver has committed a crime. The Nav Guide tells them that the cops are arriving shortly. Harkin appears and rams their car. He points a gun at them and tells them to come out. Harkin tells them that he has 6 bullets, which means he can shoot them twice like he did with Bobby. He later says that he might just tell the police that the three killed Bobby and tries to kill Harkin when he found out. Harkin shoots his leg to make his story convincing. He wipes the gun to get rid of fingerprints and passes it to Dale. The police arrived and arrested the three. When the police frisk Kurt, they find the tape recorder. They play the recorder and hear Kurt and Harkin's wife playing in the bathroom, and then on the time they crashed, the recorder stopped recording, which means the time Harkin confessed about shooting Bobby and his plan to put the blame on the three was not recorded. The police cuff the three and are about to take them when suddenly Kurt's Nav Guide speaks. The Nav Guide said it is part of their protocol to record all conversations for quality assurance. It then plays the recording of Harkin where he threatens the three to shoot them each twice like he did with Bobby. The three got happy and Harkin is now arrested. Kurt then confesses that it was Harkin's wife in the recorder and Harkin angrily runs toward him, but Nick punches him down. The movie ends with Nick narrating that Harkin is sentenced to 25 years in prison and he has been promoted as acting president of the company. The CEO, who is his new boss, seems nice, but Nick finds out he is a twisted old man because he locked his assistant in his car trunk. On the other hand, Kurt's company put the most senior person in charge, which is not Kurt. But Kurt is okay with that. Meanwhile, Dale finally decided to screw Julia. When Julia teases Kurt on top of an unconscious patient, the patient suddenly laughs. It turns out the patient is not unconscious, and it is Kenny who helps Kurt frame Julia together with Jones, who records everything outside. This time, Kurt is the one blackmailing Julia and asks for an expensive 2-week vacation with his fiancée, which will be paid by Julia. He added that if she ever harasses him again, he will expose the video. Did you like our movie recap? Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. To be updated for new movie recaps, hit the notification bell.